All right, Hans and Scotty, the great Craig Bolerjack joining us for his weekly Friday conversation. Bowler, you guys go offensive line. Way to make the exciting things happen there in Kansas City.
Yeah, you trade down, you still get the guy you want, and the Ohio State kid looks. Hans, I'll tell you what, you go 315 tackle.
Yeah.
Mahomes wants to pass more, as he's talked about last week, and they're going to maybe have a little more offensive explosion. Maybe frees up Kelsey to get out in the edge a little bit more in the slot. But I think Mahomes wants to move around and make that offense hum. So how do you start? You got to be protected, and I think it's one of the things you saw in the Super Bowl and throughout the regular season. I mean, Mahomes was punished and pushed away, and he had to scramble for his life. So, hey, I'll take an O-lineman anytime that's going to be able to protect the main man, right?
How about this, Hans?
Yeah.
8 out of the 32 picks in the first round were offensive linemen.
Yeah, it was a big offensive, mostly offensive tackles, too.
Yep.
It's a really good offensive tackle. Okay, so let me tell you something about Josh Simmons. And, Bowler, this is something you can relate to because I know eventually it was a knee that kind of ran you off the field.
Right.
So Josh Simmons, on my big board, I got Josh as the best offensive tackle in the class. The problem, he tore his patellar tendon. And, in your day, Bowler, and even in parts of my day, like the mid-'90s, a torn patellar tendon, that was it. You were done. Like, getting back on the field was very unlikely. But because we've gotten so advanced, they are able to repair that patellar tendon for Josh Simmons, and they expect him to be the best offensive tackle out of the class when he gets healthy. Didn't the Chiefs just draft Kingsley Suamataia?
Yeah, last year.
Yes. Last year.
Yeah, and he started, and then by the end of the year, he wasn't seeing the field.
What round did they take him in? Second or third?
Yeah, something like that.
I thought it was it second or what? An early? Did they get an early third pick or
it was a second day pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So does this mean that they're going to bury Suamataia?
Well, I mean, they had him buried by the end of the year last year.
They did.
Yeah.
He didn't get back on the field. I don't know if it's injury or issues beyond what we know, but look, obviously they're trying to build depth. It's the old cliche of how deep are you 1, 2s, and 3s, right? And, NFL, some of those guys go off the field limping. You never see them again, or, next man up mentality, which is truly what it's all about. But, getting back to your point, Hans, anytime you heard patellar tendon or ACL, it was doomsday.
Yep.
And now with the surgical techniques of arthroscopy, surgery, oh, my God. I mean, you can recover at such a faster pace. Yep. I mean, just switching to basketball for a minute, Taylor Hendricks, his surgery, I mean, that's a devastating injury that sometimes would have been it in the NBA, and Hayward would probably echo that. But the way they've advanced orthopedics, oh my gosh, I wish it was there in 1975, 6, and 7, man. I mean, it's, all they did then was cut you, see what was loose, cut it out, try to tie it in or staple it down, and you walk off with a 9-inch scar and a hip cast for 3 months. That was the beauty of orthopedics back then. But today, you're up and walking. I mean, that's just the crazy part about it. I mean, you see guys walking around in hinge supports. The plaster casts are nothing anymore. And, they've come such a long way. And it helps, obviously, give a guy another opportunity to be, to achieve his dream. And so this young guy, I'm excited for him, and I think it's a good pick for the Chiefs where they are. I mean, number 31, and then go to 32, and we'll see what they do today.
The great Craig Bolerjack right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Kingsley, by the way, late second-round pick, so he was a second-round guy to the Chiefs. All right, so...
Oh, by the way, we just got a text from Jake Hatch. He said that Andy Reid said they're moving Suamataia into the guard position.
Making the transition, so that's why they go tackle. Okay.
I don't know if that's, but I can tell you Kingsley's feet can put him at the guard because he can pull, and I know that there's a lot of pull schemes in that Andy Reid offense. So
yeah,
maybe that makes sense. Maybe they felt like they could draft the tackle, put Kingsley inside, and start to build that way.
the other element to all of this, and Bowler, we just know you're a football fan, so we love chatting football with you.
Sure.
But when you look at a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who has all the hype in the world, he's got his dad propping him up, retiring his number, and he falls out of the second round. Are we going to find out what kind of personality he has? Because right now he's got some egg on his face, and he's got some. We're going to see what he's made out of here because
yes.
he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. What he does with that's going to be up to him.
Well, a lot of times chips on shoulders equates into much better performance and work ethic. I don't know, Hans, again, insider info. I know a couple of guys in the NFL still, and no one ever thought the guys I talked to never thought he was going to be a first rounder. So there's no surprise here. There's, again, personality. There has to be what kind of work ethic you bring. Let's really just peel it back to 1985 with Karl Malone. Why did he slip? There were two things of concern. They couldn't be coached, and he wasn't going to work hard. I mean, was that the case for Karl Malone? No. But you get labeled with that. I mean, Karl was one of the hardest working dudes in the league. I mean, what do you think he survived for 18 and change? And is a Hall of Famer. Same with Stock. No one knew about Stockton, small size, but then labeled the dirtiest player in the NBA. I thought that's hilarity. But those guys worked at it, and maybe they do play better with a chip on their shoulder. Maybe it's the Sanders, Dion, wearing, the glitz and the glamour. Maybe it turns off GMs. I don't know. But, Hans, when I watched him play this year, there were moments, he's good escapable, has escapability. Seemed to be able to launch the ball with pretty good precision. Just not sure what type of guy is in the huddle. I mean, you got any insight on that?
Man, I called that BYU Colorado game, Bowler, and the insight that I've got is I watched Jay Hill schematically destroy him. So what happens is if you watch a college coach schematically destroy a quarterback, it tells you a couple things. Number one, you can outthink them. Number two, you don't need talent to beat them. The problem is you get to the NFL, now you got the talent and you got the schematics. And if a guy can't make calls at the line or if he doesn't have enough depth in his offense, then defenses will tear him apart. I think that's the biggest knock on him. When BYU and Jay Hill ripped him apart and Tyler Batty hit him 6 or 8 times and they completely destroyed him, what did they have, a pick off him?
Yeah.
1 pick or 2 picks off of him? It tells me that he's got some issues that are far outside of his ability to extend a pocket. And, Bowler, he doesn't fill blame well, and neither does his dad. And one thing you got to do as a great quarterback, you got to swallow your ego, bite your tongue, and you got to take the blame, man. The best quarterbacks in the world take the blame. They don't cast off blame, and that's my big worry about Shedeur.
No, that's a great breakdown. They were looking at Cam Ward last night and number 1 pick, and they compared him to Mahomes in some ways, right? And so I think again, when you look at great quarterbacks like you just said, and Mahomes is in that category, Scotty, right? I'm sorry,
yeah.
I know you're a Bronco fan.
No, that's all good.
But the read at the line is everything. You got to be able to walk up. And what Tom Brady was able to do and is remarkable for all the years is to go and say check off real quick. I mean, you see it, you process it within a half a second, and that is the amazing part about being a high level Hall of Fame type quarterback or a number 1 pick is that they know that you are able to learn fast and understand defenses and make the checks. So obviously there's concern there, Hans, and you just kind of obviously alluded to it, man. If he can't adjust to the adjustments of Jay Hill, and then you've got a problem because you can't go to the number 1. You got to check down and go to 2 or 3 on your option list, and if you're unable to do that, scouts are going to pick that up pretty quick.
I'll go back to the game prep for that Alamo Bowl, and Scotty, you remember this. You remember Jay Hill sitting at the podium because I referenced it the first time you and I watched it. Jay was sitting there in his press conference, Bowler, and he was talking through this smile. He just had this perma smile because he knew. Now, he's never said He's never talked in depth about it, but he knew what he could do to Shedeur. And it was an impressive display of defensive calls and execution. I mean, look, his team executed the calls that he threw out there, but I just think that a first part of the second round is probably a better place for Shedeur Sanders to land. And maybe that does humble him, Bowler, and maybe that does do just a little bit of the Karl Malone thing to him, because some guys need that.
Yeah.
I think there was some talk last night that Tomlin has a lot of respect for him in Pittsburgh. Maybe he lands there today. You just never know who takes a second-round pick and throw it and see where it lands. Quarterbacks, I mean, Tom Brady, right? They didn't know how good he'd become, and he used that, that to motivate him as well. There's always an argument on who's been the best quarterback behind center. Favre's and the Bradshaws, and there's always a generational thing. Same in the NBA, but it'll be interesting to see if he swallows his pride and how his dad reacts too. His dad's got to be able to come to the table, in my opinion, and with class and dignity, and say, "Look, good thing for my son. You know what? It's going to motivate him, help him work harder, and understand the process and how tough it is to play in this league." Because guess what? Deion knows, and he played several positions during his his time in the NFL. It was damn good. The pressure there too, Hans. I mean, you come from a family of football, a Hall of Fame family, and I can't even imagine my dad coaching me at that level and then being beside me when the draft comes and I'm not a number one pick, and then to try to talk that through with him. And the glitz and the glamour that surrounds Deion, man, it's almost like, I hate to say cartoonish, but in a way, look, I don't take nothing away from what Deion did in his career. I mean, incredible athlete, right? Oh, yeah. Baseball too. I mean, come on, he did it all. Oh, yeah. And that's got to be a tough thing for Shedeur to try to live up to. And then the trust, and maybe he was, again, held and rocked a little bit and say, "Oh, it's okay, you'll get through this." In the NFL, Hans, they don't have time for this. They don't have time for it.
Nope.
And that to me is my gut, is that's the biggest concern as a general manager. Do you have to also, when I draft Shedeur, do I draft Deion too? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like the Ball family. That was an issue. And so does Deion come along for this or what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, does he want to coach in the NFL? Does he want to be an O coordinator? Does he want to? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of things here that are behind the scenes that are working themselves out.
Well, Bowler, we got to let you go. We didn't talk an ounce of basketball, but that's all right because NBA playoffs. Hey. We'll have more of that to talk about next week.
Hey, can I just say one thing? I thought Lambeau last night was awesome,
incredible.
Yeah. I wish I could have been there, all of us, because that had a football feel, and I hope it doesn't go, don't go inside, man. Leave it like that. I mean, it was a show, by the way, and Goodell can't win. I mean, they boo his butt.
Oh, now he loves it.
Every time he walks. Yeah. And now he says, yeah. What did he say last night? Come on, guys. Come on.
Let's go.
But no, I thought it was a great show, and, it's more to come. But last night, man, was really a neat scene. I loved it. Yeah.
You know what Lambeau is? Lambeau is Augusta to football.
Yeah.
Yeah. I called one game there. Since it's an NFC town, and CBS was AFC.
Yeah.
But I got a chance to do one game. And, man, it's hollowed ground. Just like Notre Dame, I called 2 games there. And there is something just like, wow, how much football history on both of those, on one campus and one stadium. I mean, Lambeau. That's all you got to say. The frozen tundra. And, if you're an NFL films guy and you go back and listen to the John Facenda voice of God, and he, talks about Lambeau. I mean, gosh, it just is awesome. I know you got to go, but I just had to throw that in.
No, it's great.
Great scene last night. I loved it.
It'll never be indoors again. It'll always be outdoors.
Yeah.
Because it's
you got to make it Lambeau for good, man. Lambeau.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, Bowler, you're the best, man. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. Take care.